Okay, well, welcome back. We are going to take some extra time that we had that we didn't know we were going to have, and we're going to continue our budget discussions. So I'm going to turn it back over to our treasurer.
Thank you. So we were going down this, this list of items. So maybe I suggest that we go back to, what we were talking about, whether it was Lake Newport pool buildings or the pool, as well as Lake Thoreau. Would you like, that's a topic that we can discuss. Tennis, I think is an item that we need to discuss. I'm not sure we'll have the time to go into it in detail. I also think that maybe following up on Julie's comment recently, maybe we do a session like we did for pool hours, for tennis as well, and where we have all the tennis, the people that are involved in tennis on a day-to-day basis, the people that play, and capital projects and us, all of us there, at least some board members, and have an all-round discussion, and then after which maybe we can consider how do we prioritize between North Hills and what do we do about other tennis courts. So is that something that can be tackled that way? But if you want to have some discussion today, that's perfectly fine. If you think that we should discuss, Garrett, if you think that we should discuss some of the North Hills items today.
Sure, it's up to you.
Okay, all right.
Do you want to start there?
So where should we start? Lake.
Why we do Lake Thoreau? Go ahead and.
Let's do Lake Thoreau. Actually, that's a good suggestion.
Okay, so Lake Thoreau is identified as contributing to both years, 18 and 19. The smaller cost, of course, is in 18. That's involved with planning, design, and investigation of the site to figure out what will we need to do and how will we need to do it to repair most of that facility. As as we discussed during the site visit, you guys were able to see the state of the facility, the cracking that we have within the pool. We talked about some of the hollow spots that exist around the pool deck. The fact that we had a structural assessment done on the retaining wall, and guidance from the structural engineer is that the wall does need to be replaced within the next 2 years, and 19 would meet that criteria based on their professional opinion. And because of the design of the facility, as we discussed, it's on a hill. It's not necessarily falling into the lake, but components of the structural integrity of the facility are showing their age or gradually failing. So in order to repair the retaining wall, the pool is sitting on that wall. So it's beneficial to kind of take into account all of the swimming pool items associated with Thoreau as one large project, because of the amount of work that we know we're going to need to do just to access the entire retaining wall to completely replace it rather. In addition to knowing that we need a new shell anyway for the main pool, that's already reached its life expectancy, and the cracks are a demonstration of that. And so you have a lot of components that are listed that are all interconnected. So if we're going to do one, we really got to do all of those associated with what you see on the ground of the pool. The pool building is something that we also kind of discussed when we were on site in relation to the accessibility component. Right now, the pool building itself is not accessible. With the size of the project that we're going to have with renovating the pool, much like Dogwood, we're going to, of course, be required to make sure we comply with the accessibility or the ADA requirements, because we're getting a construction permit. So that's something that we have to take into consideration as we, especially in 18, as we look to design and figure out what needs to be done. So that's why we tried to make sure we clustered all of those related items that we think will have some replacement that needs to be done related to the larger project. Cluster those all together for you so that you can see, what's really being done specific to that site.
So Garrett, the pools that are around that pool, and I don't know what they are, you guys that live over there could probably name them,
Ridge Heights.
Ridge
Heights, Lake
Lake
Audubon.
Audubon.
Lake Audubon.
That's it, pretty much.
Those are the
and-
closest ones.
okay,
Those
they're within,
It's also Shadowwood, which is also.
Shadowwood, which is.
Shadow's a little bit more of a hook.
do they have the same, do they
Golf
have the
course.
deep end with the diving boards and the spa?
Oh, you also have Golf Island.
Golf Island.
Golf Island.
Golf course island.
Golf course island. So you've got,
Which is
within
on,
half a mile from any of these pools, you hit another pool.
But do the pools have similar amenities? So I know the pools are all a little bit
Yeah.
different. Does it have the dive, 'cause if I remember right, Lake Thoreau has a diving board, like a deep end and
Yeah, Ridge Heights has the same thing.
a spa?
And it is heated.
Does it have, and
Oh,
it's
they don't
heated?
have a, they
Do
don't have a.
Wasn't there
hot
like
tub.
a hot tub over
No.
at Lake Thoreau?
at Thoreau, yes.
Thoreau
But
does.
not
Any
at,
other pools have that?
No,
No.
Not those.
I don't think
not
so.
those, no.
No.
No,
Larry's
no.
shaking his
No.
head no.
The closest summer hot tub is Glade.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I'm poor
That's-
with directionally
quite a-
challenged.
that's not,
Yeah.
not close.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's towards
It's
Fox.
not terribly close.
Because I'll just be kind of out front, and this is going to be a very unpopular comment, but it's really just to get the conversation going. Is $1 million to renovate a pool when you guys rattled 3 pools off
You
very
have four.
quickly, or 4, gives me pause.
So
But I would say you could say the same thing about any of our other pools. I mean, part of why we have the population of pools is that they are accessible. Like you could pick North Point and say, well, there's North Hills, there's this, there's that.
And I would say that it doesn't have to be this pool, it could be any other pool that you have to literally dig the entire thing up, like down to the ground, like it's all gonna be gone, nobody will even know a pool was there when you've replaced, when you've dug everything out. So it's not that particular pool, it's just that's the pool that's up,
Up front.
Right.
When
which
was
is
the
it's
last
numbered
one we
up.
did that to?
it's $1 million pool.
Dogwood.
Was it Dogwood the last
So
one?
Dogwood was the last one.
Yeah.
I have the
And
numbers
that was
right here.
over $1 million project as
Yeah.
well.
Dogwood was 1 million and 1,078,000, and this was in 2012.
It's a
Right.
bigger pool
Kate.
facility, isn't it? Dogwood.
Did you enhance it? It was
Yeah, but it doesn't have
enhanced?
the.
Kate?
Yeah.
So what I would recommend if you're considering pool facilities, if you're interested in entering into that conversation, I would look at use statistics of pools within that district.
Sure.
Yep.
I think that if that's a conversation you want to get into. I'm
Right.
pretty confident that Thoreau is one of the higher use
Was.
facilities,
It was.
and that you would want to, I mean, if you're, and if.
I'm
you
just
wanna-
throwing it out there as a
Okay.
conversation piece. I'm
Right.
not saying we should do it or shouldn't do it, I'm just throwing it out there. It's $1 million investment.
And is it a higher use facility because of a deficit of anything nearby, or is it just close to?
Mhm, they
If
got-
that wasn't there, would people
Because we've
go,
got other pools that
Well, they got
we're not
early,
using well, but it might not be that they're not being used well because nobody knew when they were open.
they have early morning swimming,
Right,
are
yeah.
used
We
extensively
can
by
we can
adults.
program that somewhere else, right? We can
Right.
program that at
Program it somewhere
Audubon or
So you-
golf course or something.
Yeah.
So I'm in the
I
same.
know Dave Emke's gonna put me on Reston now as wanting to throw down, or to shut down this pool. That's not the case. It's
It is
just a
not the case.
conversation piece.
Yep, that
I
is
mean,
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm looking at usage numbers, right? I do have them in front of me, and so in 2000, I would really look at 2015, 16 as indicators because that's when you had a full schedule, right?
Right.
So, so definitely Lake Thoreau is one of the better used facilities. In that place, pretty much all of them, Golf Course Island and Lake Audubon is the next closest, right? You Golf Course Island, Shadowwood,
And is it being
are
used
not
because
that
it has different
highly-
hours,
But
different
Ridge
functioning
Heights, on the
hours?
other hand, is very well used. Ridge Heights is
Right.
extremely well used. So that's the highest in that, if you want to take the cluster of those 4 pools,
Right.
right? That's the one that's used the most. So the question for us is, but this is the one that we have, if I look at the capital expenditure in the last 6 years, starting from 2012 to 2017, right, Dogwood is the highest. Rest of the years, it's been, looks like maintenance CapEx, and correct me if I'm wrong, Garrett. So we have 300,000, 300 plus, 500, 240, and last year was like, I mean, this year we are spending, we've spent so far about 160,000, right? So this is the next big ticket item. So we are going to spend 1 million, on Lake Thoreau. So it's a good conversation to have.
Yeah.
Is that when we have so many pools, how does
Well,
how does it get distributed, right?
We've also found, I think the statistics will show that when we have renovated a pool and we brought new features and things to it, usage goes up. We also have families who, this point was made very clear to me at the Lake House open house that, I said, well, there is another pool close to you. If, you can't go at that hour, you could go over there. Well, that would mean they'd have to get in a car and drive. And that isn't always the, kids. There's some
Tough with a little kid.
little kids, and they
Sure
can
is.
just say, okay, we can walk to here and use their pool that way. And so it isn't as simple as getting in your car and
That is
driving.
a relatively low density area of our community though.
What is?
Upper Lake, yeah,
Upper Lake is relatively low density.
agreed.
But there's townhouses
Yes, I get that.
around there on both
But looking at
sides.
the density of the various areas,
Right.
it's something to consider. It's not that this is the highest
Mhm,
density. So I'm not arguing either way. I'm just saying that we can't just assume that because some people walk, well, that's the case everywhere.
Right.
And we
And
really
that's
need
my
to make sure
point,
that we
is that
take
you
that
can't just say, well, I'm
into
going to rip this pool out. We're going to close this pool, we're going to,
Right.
because there is that element. Now, just some of the reasons on the statistics is Thoreau also has had more drop in fitness hours.
Right.
So when I'm hearing that, I'm going, well, typically drop in fitness means you probably have a driver's license.
Right,
Exactly.
good point.
So maybe we play
Explore the
around with
program.
where
You-
drop-in
right.
fitness hours
You could go
are.
to Shadowwood or,
Yeah. we
Right.
could go to some of the
Right.
places, or Ridge
And those are
Heights,
some of
yeah.
the conversations, some of the email exchanges I've had with
That's why we should.
Laura and Willa about,
That's why we should have that. I mean, I'm looking at the usage data, right? In 2010, it was 182,000. So apples to apple comparison, same number of pools. We look at 2015, it's 153,000. So it's a drop by, 29,000. In 2016, it dropped down to 150,000. So in the last 6 to 7 years, it's dropped by over 30,000. The number of usage, the frequency. I'm assuming this tracks every user, right? So if the same person
yeah.
goes 5 times, that's 5 there,
there are 5
right?
people.
So it's interesting to see that, the usage is actually coming down. So we do have to take that into consideration and see how do we best address this.
Right, so that's why this is hard just to say, yeah, we're good, is I think we need to take a look at these kind of things. I mean, when you describe, Garrett, what has to be done over there, when we were over there, it sounded to me like we're down to dirt. I mean, you're kind of you're taking the pool out, the retaining wall's coming out, the
Right,
spa's coming
right.
out,
It's
it's
a
all
complete
coming out.
rebuild.
It's all going out, yeah.
It's all coming out, yeah.
I'm assuming the bathhouse is even, if not coming out, certainly being
No, that's not being touched.
drastic.
Now, that's not being touched.
Right.
Okay.
To the back.
You still have to be, right.
Besides the modification that would be needed to improve access.
And then we needed to do probably some ADA, because
Yeah, that's all.
And there's a drainage issue at the back. with them.
So there was it's
Correspondence
a
about that
full
later.
on,
It's
it's a tear down.
very similar to Dogwood.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, that was before my time. I don't know what happened over there. But so I mean, we talk about as a board I mean, I've only been on the board for a year and a half, and last year we talked about pools again. But now we're looking at $1 million redo. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
This is
if
the
you
biggest one.
if we took, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's hard to say, yeah, that makes sense. Let's spend $1 million on that. I'm not prepared to say that right now, for sure. So I don't know how we take this conversation further. Stats are great, but like Julie said, are those stats driven because you had certain programming there?
Right.
Is that how you got so many numbers? And
That's
and
like,
David's point is you have early morning stuff there, and is that why you got bigger numbers? And if you had that at a different pool, would those numbers go up? And so honestly, we don't know the answer to that.
like the question, just over the weekend, somebody said, well, they didn't get a pool pass because it was confusing or too hard. Back to the question of, well, how many people didn't get pool passes this year? Could we, I don't know, maybe do on opening day, have a mobile
So to,
pass?
so just to stay on the capital conversation with Lake Thoreau.
Yeah,
And I'm just trying to present options so you can move forward. If you're not ready to do anything with Thoreau and you're committed to having a conversation over the rest of this year going into 18 as to what you want to do with pool facilities, and you want to pause on Thoreau, with the exception of just general maintenance items, then that's one option. I do want to double check on the retaining wall. I'm concerned about the retaining wall and whether or not we can push that off for, I mean, you've got it in 19. It's on 19, it's not on 18, but we could, if we were to
20 minutes.
investigate, we could do, no matter what, we would do that, if nothing else, right? Okay, so you
And-
could,
You're talking about replace the wall?
right, I mean, that's what's listed here, right? The retaining wall, timber?
You can't replace it without
But
pulling out the
without-
pool.
And the intent was to
Good
time
money.
them
No,
appropriately.
I get that, and it makes complete sense. Yeah,
The pool itself is due to be fully replaced,
Yep.
the entire interior shell, so that does have to be dug out. So it makes sense and reduces total overall cost, so we're digging the pool out to go ahead and
absolutely.
replace the wall at the same time.
Absolutely.
So why don't, suggest, I'm sorry, I just, because you have limited time and I want to make a suggestion. You could pull all of the Thoreau items off the list and hold them, just hold them until such time as you've had and made some concluding discussions about what to do with pool facilities in general.
In general, I would say
Okay,
that.
so that is an option, and that would be guidance that you could provide that's got a parameter on it. We're not pulling it off and forgetting about it, pulling it off for continued discussion between now and April, hypothetically,
So-
okay?
but if we wanted it in yet to be part of, because
Let me pause for a second, okay?
Okay.
Because what you can always do, if you decide between now and hypothetically April, you could authorize Garrett to use unencumbered dollars to begin.
Design.
I think there are 2 items
Yep.
that you could authorize him to do. Okay, so that gives you the door that you need.
Yep.
And he will keep it front and center on the list, and I will make sure that there's time on future board agendas to have discussions on pool facilities.
Yeah.
That's an option.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I like that. I mean, I think that in January timeframe, after we get through the holidays, that I think this board should take on long-term
Assets,
planning of
strategic
all
assets.
assets. And this just happens to come up because it's right here on this piece of paper. There's lots of assets that we need to look at, and we need to really take some hard looks at these things, and I think this simple conversation here about, some of Julie's perspectives and others are good. And I think we need to have those conversations. And as I don't know, Sridhar, if you told me that overall the course of over the last 5 years, just in general, our pool usage has come down.
Yeah,
and
I
that's
just said that.
Yeah.
It
right,
came
but not
in-
just that one pool, but over
Everything,
all of
everything, all of
yeah,
it is come down
so what
to,
what are they doing with their recreation time then? If we're not going to pools,
sitting in front of a screen.
no, I don't know. Or they, I think it's worth
What?
figuring
Great
it out.
discussion to have
Yeah.
in the future.
in the
Yeah.
future, we
Why are
should have this
people- why
strategic
is it-
discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Because-
I used to love going to the pool, and I went 4 times this year. Why? Because I had other stuff I was doing.
So what guidance do you have for us on this section of items with regard to the pool?
So, I mean, there are 2 items that are Lake Thoreau, specific, which is 15,000 and 109,000. And one of them, the 109, the 15 is
Where's the
ADA,
15?
right? The steel structure for ADA compliance.
At the top.
Yes, and that's for that dock.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, that's for the
That's
dock.
the dock.
That's
On
right.
the
yeah.
40,000.
Right.
So,
Wobbly dock.
we don't hold that, so that goes through. So the remaining is 109,000, that's really a design for the renovation. So until we decide on the renovation, it doesn't make sense to approve that, right? So I guess we just basically hold off on Lake Thoreau.
Well, why
except for
wouldn't
the
we-
15,000.
Why wouldn't we still, to me, we can hold off on the 2019, but I don't know why we wouldn't go ahead and put aside, even if we don't end up spending it, for this budget process, the 109, and I don't know what the $40,000 is down below that says long-range planning for the Lake Thoreau area. I
But
don't
for
know what-
the, so that if we decided to pull the trigger on it, then we could go ahead and.
It's
we had it
already in the budget.
That makes sense.
You know, so, and you could choose to redirect that rather than saying, well, we're just going to put an earmark that it's, you know, we'll keep in mind that we might want to do that. To me,
It
I'd
sounds like-
rather,
It sounds like we can use unencumbered funds to do that anyway.
Unencumbered
if
funds to
we
do it
decide we
anyway, so
have
I'm
to
not
do it.
worried about, you know, necessarily
Yeah.
approving it now.
So
I
I
would say
like-
that
Why?
we'll just pull it out of unencumbered funds at that time.
So can
Right.
we then make
why do
a,
I have
I,
all the you know, unencumbered? Why wouldn't I want?
no, but if we are not, when we haven't had the strategic discussion, why spend money or at least set aside money for a design renovation?
Because if part of what we decide to do is go ahead,
well, the money's still there.
Right, the money doesn't go
Money
anywhere.
doesn't go anywhere, it's there in the triple RF fund, we can always authorize as a board
So
to.
if we decide, say, next summer that we want to do a design, whether it's for a pool or something else, we would still have access.
Yeah, the money doesn't go
Money's
anywhere.
still there.
Yeah, yeah.
We're
So
still
we-
add-
It's already in triple R.
Balances the balance.
Gotcha, gotcha.
The money doesn't have to be released from that perspective, it's already there, you're not collecting
We
assessment
can
dollars.
release
It's
it.
already there.
So can we make
Anytime.
the, can we make a decision around, let's kind of hold
Hold
Lake
off.
Thoreau out there?
I would
And we're
say
gonna
let's hold
commit, we
Lake
are
Thoreau
committing,
pool.
I want it in blood, that we're committing to then rediscuss this January,
Yes,
February timeframe.
yes.
So is that a motion or without
That was,
objection?
no, that wasn't really.
Julie's
motion.
shaking her head.
David, we haven't heard from you. Are you with us?
No, I'm with you, yeah.
Okay, all right, good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Julie's
so,
shaking her head.
it's not unanimous. So,
Well, then we have to have a motion
okay, we'll make a
to
motion.
vote. Do you-
Vote against it.
Move to hold the Lake Thoreau pool items off of the capital plan until we have a strategic discussion with the pools.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? One opposed. You opposed too?
No,
Oh.
I want to say something. If I may.
About Lake Thoreau?
Yes.
Okay, quick.
It's really fine that you're postponing it until January to make it, or have the discussion about all of the pools and their use and what you want to do with them as general facilities. But in the meantime, it would seem appropriate to me that you would like staff to gather together a study on the issue so that you can have all of the information that you need and analysis about the various things that you want done or to consider, so that you're in a position to take a decision.
Yep,
And you won't be simply talking with nothing on a base.
fair. Yeah, and I think,
Yep.
I would say that I would like to see the board take an active role in seeking information from people, like we did, we started at Lake House. Those are really good conversations to have, and you have a lot of data, which we can start, and Julie, your points about, well, if drop-in hours are the thing, then if you had drop-in hours over here, would people just move over there? And so, yeah, it's a good point, we do need to, data's an important part of that.
Yep, agree.
Okay. That is
Okay.
good. Okay, so we do have other pool items like Lake Newport and, you know, is that something that we want to discuss now? Okay, that's about 200,000, right, where is it? So it's in the pool buildings.
Yeah, we have tile, plumbing, lighting,
Plumbing system, exterior lighting. Is that,
clothing.
yeah,
And this is North Hills?
This is New
Newport.
Lake
Newport.
Newport.
Yeah, so the biggest number I think we have in there for the building is related to
the plumbing.
shower tile.
Yeah,
That's,
And the plumbing,
and plumbing, and
84
we usually do those together when we can.
yeah, okay, got it, yeah.
Lighting as well, floor coating.
Filtration.
So all of Newport adds up to what? It's all under pool buildings?
yeah, it's like 200,000.
There's a handful that's not.
So the plumbing issue over there is an issue we have now? Like it's broken? Do you know?
It's not that
It's being
broken and leaking, but there are issues with it that we need to address.
Like what? Like,
Um,
I mean, it was being used till the,
Yeah,
you know,
it's
during the season.
been
and all that.
actively
Yeah,
in use all season.
so what did it prevent?
I'll have to get the details for you, but you know, we've heard from aquatic staff that it's in need of replacement and hasn't been. You know, they've been patching kind of over time, and if we're going to replace the tile and open up the walls at that time, that's a good opportunity to fix some of the issues that they're having that we can get some more detail on for you.
Okay, I mean, it might be worth looking at because there's some minimal spending I can see in the last, 3, across the board 6 years. But it's been pretty minimal, so if they're getting away with the patching, right? Is this a nice to have, absolutely need to have, otherwise sky
Everything
is
on this
falling next year?
list is a need to have.
It's not nice.
We
It's
haven't
not,
included
you know.
nice to haves on
Yeah.
the capital list.
I'll be frank, that was the direction that we were given early on, I mean, last year.
The only thing nice to have about it is us to continue to have the asset.
And that,
right?
and you've got to maintain it to a certain level. So,
Which
I mean,
goes to
if.
the conversation about covenants violations.
Right, but more to the point of, if I'm hearing from you, we're not going to do anything in any of the pool facilities, I need to know that.
That's not
But
what
I'm, okay, I just want to I want to be mindful of that, because some of this is maintenance and upkeep.
That's what I'm asking.
And it could be some safety concerns, redoing the tile for a reason, redoing plumbing because it's not working properly. So some of this stuff is,
That's the color, that's the flavor I'm trying to get, is it,
I thought we did, back to Thoreau for a moment, I thought there were some maintenance items that had to be done this year when we did that inspection.
you notice that when we were there, a lot of the items we were just going to take up in 19. So I wouldn't just push things over. If you're going to have an overall discussion because there's concern about spending $1 million or more on a facility renovation, especially with Lake Thoreau, I think pausing and getting more information is a good way to go. However, some of the other items that we're looking at, like interior lighting, shower tile, bathhouse plumbing, exterior lighting. I know exterior lighting for a fact has to do with safety issues. Interior lighting, again, is a safety issue. Floor coating, again, is a safety issue. There's a slip and fall, and just, it's time for it to be cleaned up
Yeah.
The sense is
issue.
if there's a plumbing problem, you have to fix the plumbing problem, just like you would do in
But I
your
mean,
house.
there were some issues like that
I'm
in
just
Thoreau.
trying to get at
Yeah.
how big is it?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I wouldn't know.
I mean, is it something that, somebody,
Is it a
is
leaky
it that
faucet or
simple?
is-
Exactly, that,
Right.
It sounds like bigger than a leaky faucet. So I'm inclined to do the maintenance on these things. But what's your guys' thoughts?
we can provisionally approve it, I'll diligence it a bit more. How's that?
I'm fine.
We
We can
can sit
always
down with Laura
Take
and
it back off if we make it.
and diligence
Some
it
sort
a
of
little bit more on the detail, and I can come back
Yeah.
with this. I'll take-
Which of
Okay.
Is that okay?
What were
So-
the other 5 pools that were
We'll
lacking
provisionally
the bathroom
Be
facilities?
okay with that.
Okay. We'll have more detail for you that's
Okay.
currently coming in.
Oh, it's coming in right
Yes.
now?
So per aquatics, the plumbing issue is with, let's say, issues with wastewater leaching into areas where they shouldn't be.
That's right.
That's not good.
So there's usually some kind of safety issues, yeah.
Well, you gotta
That's right.
This is the beauty of having live stream and staff watching from afar and answering questions. This is good.
Thanks, Sean.
Good.
Yeah, that's the need for the,
I think based on that new information,
Fine,
We're all in.
fine,
we're
fix
probably
it.
ready to rock on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
might do that, yeah.
All right.
So what,
So are we implicitly saying therefore that we're beginning an overall review of the whole pool system? Or am I understanding it too broadly?
Well,
I think-
pools as strategic assets, yes, I think
Yeah.
we should think about it as, because this issue has come up, at least I'll speak for myself. We have these pool issues that have come up this year, starting from the schedule, right? And so we are looking at all these facilities, they are all somewhat close to each other, and most of these assets, if it is Lake Thoreau this year, you're going to get these $1 million renovations coming up for some of the other facilities at some point in time, right? There's never a good time, it's always a good time, right? So
I'm not questioning it, I'm saying what it seems
Yeah.
that we're saying, we need to look at the whole system to see whether our assets exceed our needs or
Yeah, exactly.
what
That's
the
how I
fit
see it.
is, what the fit is between needs and the assets we
and the
have.
assets.
Or
That's how I see it.
utilization of those assets
Yep.
is appropriate.
And the mix of the basket of assets, we need to look at that too.
But if that's what we're doing, I'm just saying we need to be prepared to say that to the community.
Yep.
And I think that's an excellent conversation to have, based on some information that's coming in on utilization and we want to be mindful of large expenditures on pool facilities until you have a better understanding of what's going on with pool use in our community. Is there a need to renovate certain pools to make them more attractive, to draw people back into them, as we saw what happened with Dogwood? It drew more people in. Glade, when we did that renovation several years back and added different features to it, it brought more people in. So that's a conversation. Ridge Heights, one of the key reasons why it's so well used is because it's heated.
Right.
So you are able to get more use. So it's the
to be covered,
why
too.
and what do we need to, and what else is
Yeah,
going on
exactly.
around us is an important
Exactly.
conversation to have. What impact does a facility like Lifetime Fitness have on Reston Association's facilities?
Mm-hmm.
Or any of the new residential that's going in that has, in some cases, both indoor and outdoor pools being offered. So it's a high level and important conversation for this
Because I
board to
wouldn't
have.
want the folks who have grown up to love and use Lake Thoreau thinking that we're just focusing on them.
No, this is a pool.
It's a question that has been raised.
that's
All
a
of the
valid,
assets.
valid
That's
point.
right.
Cost, but also by usage and other factors.
Right, and it's
That's-
something
that's
that
why
we,
we're-
Right.
It kind of goes back to where you started today, the importance and the
Yeah.
value and the cost and
that's
the
true.
common good.
Common good,
I
yep.
mean,
And we
Yeah.
may find
And-
that, like some of these other pools, heck yeah, we're gonna rebuild this, but we're gonna rebuild it
Absolutely.
with slightly different and maybe really awesome features that
Absolutely.
none of the
Right.
other pools have.
Right,
Right.
right.
and you also have the fact that a lot of people buy into Reston, frankly, because they can walk to the pools. Now, do they ever walk to the pools and use them? Maybe not so much, but they want to have that option.
They like the
That's
idea,
Part
right.
of
Yeah,
why
the
they're
idea-
paying the price
Yeah.
for that,
Yeah.
facility.
It's true.
Yeah, not singling out Thoreau at all.
So,
It's only
with that
up in-
understanding,
Up in line. yeah.
What were the other big ticket items that you all wanted to discuss on this list? We've already addressed the row.
Okay, so we did that. Okay, Thoreau's done. Tennis, are we deciding to move it to another day when we've had this? Can we agree on that?
We're talking about the North Hills,
North Hills, so North Hills is a big tennis,
right?
item here, and so that's something that either we discuss it now or we postpone it for, when we have after we have the tennis discussion.
So is our question here again about the facility in general? Kind of like, should we be, again, when we're looking at assets, if we're going to do that in January, February timeframe, are we going to are we adding tennis courts into that? Or are we only looking at pools? Because it's a lot to look at everything at once.
Might I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
We had asked Prac to spend a fair bit of time this summer on pools and gathering pool data and whatever. I think that if we said to Prac, now could you take a look on tennis and try and get a sense of the tennis community's collective input.
Mhm.
Because, as we know, lighting is one of those things that seems
Yeah.
to be a touch point there. And also the quality, how important is clay, how important is, this. So maybe we could have a separate kind of discussion on tennis, and ask for some kind of.
I would be very
Analysis?
specific to North Hills in particular, so maybe if you were to pause on this, you can get some community feedback at the October open house, just on North Hills, because it's literally just down the road
Yeah.
from
Yeah,
your
and
meeting
maybe-
facility, just like you did with pool hours.
Yeah.
You could focus on, here are the improvements. Anybody who's interested, come and have a conversation
About tennis.
I like it.
and
I think that's
identify
a
our
great
tennis
idea.
users.
I think it's a great idea.
My
Totally.
only concern, if we push off tennis, is if we don't do the repairs this coming year, are we creating more damage significantly, or is it just kind of like,
You could, I'd
It's-
definitely make that call now.
it's not so critical that it has to be within 6 months, it could be 18 months.
I mean, it's-
So if we
We
focus.
still think it's critical.
It's critical. The issue is you have a tennis court that's leaking that shouldn't be.
Right.
And
Is it
our job
damaging
is
the
to
parking
maintain the
lot?
facility
Yeah.
and make sure that it's appropriate for users and, aesthetically, there are no visible problems that, members see. Right now, you have that issue with both courts, kind of creating this flow into the parking lot, into the surrounding area. Is that detrimental to the functionality of the court as it is? No,
I was actually
our
more thinking,
maintenance-
is it detrimental to the sidewalks and to the parking
No.
lot? Are we
It's-
going to have more
It's not significant
expenses?
flow. so
Okay.
It's, we saw the picture, it's
Yeah,
not that
I saw it, but I don't
significant.
know, is there something that I'm not seeing so that what we're saying by delaying it so we can have this really important and good conversation,
So,
we're actually creating a bigger problem for
Yeah,
ourselves, and I
right.
want to make sure we don't do that.
The other point to consider with that is, that leakage is kind of an indicator of, a more significant issue that we have with operating the court and making sure that that irrigation system functions
As it
to
should.
create a court that is performing at the standard that it's supposed to. Because we do have a great maintenance staff at CSF, working in conjunction with the tennis staff. They're doing everything they can to work with the state of the system as is to ensure that those courts are still playable.
Yeah.
Are they doing more than they should if the system were working as it's supposed to? Yes. So, there is that added staff time and focus on that facility that could otherwise be focused somewhere else if the court was functioning as it should. So there's another kind of layer there too.
So if
Gary,
on 10-15, we kind of focused on tennis, but with Hook
Road as your focal
North-
point.
North Hills.
Sorry, yes.
That's what you meant. Well, Hook Road still has a tennis thing that's still kind of.
But Hook- yeah.
But I'd focus on North Hills.
North Hills,
I
because
wouldn't mix
Hook Road can get
anybody.
into the other process.
Well, plus it's a clay court, it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Just a question, Garrett, though, on timing. If we said, let's go on this, to make it so it's definitely available next spring when the tennis players come out of hibernation, how long does this redo of a clay court, do we have any sense? Is that a 6-week project? Can you do it?
Roughly, I think the estimate that we got from the contractors is roughly a 1 to 2 month project.
Okay.
But they'll start early, as soon as the last thaw
Okay,
is complete and we'll get done. We may have slight delay in opening of that court, and I think we did this year as well,
okay.
but not enough to
Not enough to.
be a detriment to the players.
the main thing I would be
And
worried about,
the lights are also a concern to consider
Yeah.
too, as we talked about.
I'm mainly concerned about the pole.
Yeah.
If it in fact is rusted, that's the one thing, but the irrigation is, some parts of the court cannot get enough water, right? But it's leaking from one side.
Did you say
I
the
mean, it's
pole?
still one of the
Like
pole,
light
the light poles. If they are rusted, then you have liability issues, if they actually fall. That's the one thing that I would certainly check to make sure that that's not a problem, but.
Well, we saw that.
But
Is that
fence
where we saw the
rusting,
rust?
that's okay.
That's where we saw the rust, on those arms.
On the arms, that's what the picture had as well, so that's the one thing that I'll walk and see as well, but I'm not the expert. You should, I'm sure you've looked at it. That's the one thing that I would be concerned with, but yeah, sure. Otherwise,
Hence my conversation about making sure that we're not putting something off that we really should be doing.
Yes, no, that's that, which is why I brought up the pole issue.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that,
Yeah,
pens rusting, it's fine.
Yeah.
You know, or if there is a gap, the ball will run out, they can
Yep,
go
we've got
get it.
about 3 minutes, right?
Yep,
But
okay?
you've got until 7:30. Your next
7:30.
meeting doesn't begin
Yeah,
until
yeah, we're
7:30.
good.
So I would at least allow our media manager to, if we stop at 7:20 so that he can
Stop and
switch
start.
gears
Yep.
and put on the next meeting slides, that would be good.
And I would just say that we really need to start at 7:30 because we got a lot to cover and only an hour and a half to do it. And if we don't, I'm anticipating my opening
Can we
to
start
the
early?
ethics part. If we don't do certain tasks as a board tonight, we may not make our goal of enacting a code in December. Because we need feedback of a certain specificity so that we, the ethics subcommittee, can complete our work so that we can have community review of the code and board continuing review. So in short, I hope we start.
Yes, I will make sure that we do. Sean will definitely give the high sign to Sherry that we do. So back to a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think if you, I'm hearing a mix of emotions on the North Hills projects. Either you're going to keep it on the list or you're going to hold until the 15th, and then you could, at your October meeting, decide to, yes, staff, we do want you to work on that in 18. That's just, again, I'm thinking of advertising purposes for the full budget and capital. So the question is, which direction would you like to go? Leave it on and still have the meeting on the 15th of October? Or hold until you've had your meeting on the 15th of October and then make a decision later in October? What say you?
So my 2 cents is to hold it, because if we leave it on there, there'll be people who might be for that who say, I'm okay, I'm not gonna come to that meeting. We need their input too. I don't want just people to show up and say, don't spend any of our money. I wanna hear, don't spend any of our money, and I also wanna hear this is an important facility to me, right? And so if
Tell me,
I presuppose the answer, the people who like the answer won't come.
Right.
I want everybody out there to know it's an open question, we want
So
your
you
feedback.
better come and
Yeah,
defend.
you better
why
come
you-
tell me, yeah.
So let's put it, we okay with that?
Yeah, and I would just point out, it would seem to me that we need to communicate very rapidly with the Parks and Rec Advisory
Yeah.
Committee because of the seriousness of the conversations we're having here.
I can guarantee you staff is already on that right now.
Streaming, that video's already gone out.
I can guarantee
Okay.
you, I have already
So is this
pre-warned.
Yes.
just to move things along, is this a without objection? That's what you would like us to do, is pull the North Hills tennis items off until you've had your public hearing, and you're catching all this, right? Until you've had your public hearing, or your meeting, your community meeting
Community meeting,
on
yeah.
October the 15th, and then after such time, the board will consider it at its October regular meeting, which is on October the 26th. Is that fair?
Beautiful.
Yep.
Without objection,
Yep.
so moved.
So can I ask a supplementary question? How soon can we get Prac to think about this and see if we can get some,
I'm already having
okay, all right, good.
those.
Okay, all right, good, awesome.
I don't remember when the next PrAC meeting is. Hopefully, we won't conflict with another Bach meeting, but
Having
We
met
should
a
be
lot of
okay.
tennis people this weekend, I'm sure that we will be
Yeah.
busy on the 15th
Yeah.
at the open house.
Yeah.
So all you tennis people I met this
Well, in
weekend,
fact, Elaine, the Prac
yeah,
member that
I've
spoke,
been
has been
chatting.
telling me for the last several days that,
Yeah.
ready to come,
Yeah.
to talk
Right.
about tennis anytime, so.
What are the other items that you have that are
do
on
we
this
have
list?
any questions on vehicle and equipment?
Nope.
Or is everybody okay? Julie's like, I'm done.
I'm done. I want to get to ethics.
John Deere backhoe, I guess, yeah, all good, good.
Those are all just replacement items.
Yeah, replacement items, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So can we move that with the exception of the items we've discussed,
Adopt this.
adopt this, and the items we've discussed to clarify are Lake Thoreau. Yeah.
Right.
And
More
North Hills
pools?
Tennis. With the exception of those two items and the remainder of this capital budget plan, we'd like the staff.
I mean, Hook Road is already,
That's already off.
it's over here, it's already under discussion, so.
To include them in the next draft
In the next draft.
budget.
I must
Please.
point out, though, if we're
Who's made
pushing
second?
Lake Thoreau, to a later kind
To a
of thought
later date.
process. In this, and I know it's 2019 versus 2018, but we do have two items in long-range planning that relate to pools.
And
Mm-hmm.
and then,
Oh, yeah, you're right.
and then the Browns Chapel, we're gonna try to see if we can get Little League,
Data.
Oh, that's right.
Western League to come up with some money, some kind of contribution, both for the backstops as well as the concession stand.
I believe that they are going, they are we're very fortunate. They regularly, annually, contribute dollars to us. So let us talk with them about their annual contribution and how those are used. Is that fair?
All right, good, that's it.
And keep in mind, they're also going to be helping out at Hook Road, too.
Right.
Yes.
They had offered up something in the suggested items for this year, correct? In our list of,
There are a list of items.
yeah, that they've already said, hey,
Oh.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
no, they're good neighbors.
And we're going to check out a little bit more about that concession stand, right, Kate, just as an aside?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. And I know we have to do something because the Covenants group is saying you have rotting wood and those people, those RE folks, they did do good work. So did we made a motion,
I
right?
sort of had a motion on the table.
Second. Yeah.
You don't even know what it was.
Second.
Whatever he was gonna say is good. Yes.
So that would all go into our next draft of the budget, correct? Is that how that would work?
That's
All
how
that
it would
stuff
work.
we
Yes.
did?
Yep. I mean, nothing is final.
Yeah, so
No, it's just so we can do the next two
Hearing.
drafts, yes.
Sabrina, did you catch that motion? Could you read it again, please?
With the exception of the two items addressed above, those being Lake Throw Pool and the North Hills Tennis Court, move to direct staff, excuse me, to include the attached 2018-19 capital project list in its draft 2 budget for advertisement for notice for the public hearings that are going to come in October.
Why not?
We need to take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Opposed? That was everybody.
So this, with the exception of the two items that you asked about in operating, I think one, let me just remind myself of the two things that I promised to get back to you on. One was items related to covenants. You didn't want to take a decision on the
Right.
covenants item until you've gotten a little bit more information, and I've already had a email interaction with Anna, so she knows that we'll have something ready for your board packet. And I believe the other item was, you would like numbers on lake house use for
Summer.
rental only and camps, so you could see what that looks like.
Right.
Okay, we'll have that ready for 8/29 as well. So those are the two remaining for the 28th. That should not take up a full hour on the 28th of September.
Good.
That'll,
9:29, 9:28,
9:28.
at
So-
8:29.
No, I'm sorry.
That's all
I
right.
apologize.
Sorry.
It's all mixed up.
I got it.
So then you've done what you've needed to on the capital list, so
So we could take a pause
Until 7:30?
until 7:30.
and you would adjourn
We will
this
adjourn.
meeting. Yeah.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in
You can't
favor?
start it.
Aye. Any opposed? No. We will be back at 7:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.